Thanks for tuning in. This is optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, thanks to the folks at FansToys, we're going to be taking a look at the new FansToys FT-18 LUPUS, which as you can see is their version of a masterpiece style WEIRDWOLF. Throughout the years, several other third-party companies have given us their interpretation of masterpiece style headmasters, and this is FansToys' first attempt. For his accessories, first off, one actually is his tail, which much like in the original can actually remove and become his sword. You can see you straighten it out and it's basically sword shaped, but you can also articulate it and give it some kind of dynamic tail looks. He also does come with his very simple but very accurate looking gun. You can see some nice molded detail throughout there, but it's all molded in this greenish plastic, which still looks pretty cool. You can see you actually have an open hole right there. And then he also does come with an alternate faceplate that gives him a little bit more of an animation style look. The face that's currently on him is a little bit more toy-centric, but this gives a little bit more of a humanoid sort of look, which we'll take a look at here closer in a bit. But for Lupus himself, and yes, the name lupus is a form of disease. I have no idea why they named it that, but it is what it is. This is a pre-production test sample, so some things are not completely up to specs. One aspect is this top section right here, which houses his headmaster, which I don't know if they've actually named it. But this section, as you can see, kind of slides up and down here, and it's a little bit loose, and it collapses. So it's a little bit tricky to kind of get to, so you kind of have to keep lifting it up like that to keep it upward like so. Sometimes when you don't close that all the way, it kind of helps out, but that's something I'm sure that they'll fix on the final version. Another aspect is these little pieces right here. It's kind of hard to see, but this section right here actually has like a little tab. You can see the tabs right here, and there's a little slot here on the side. It appears as if they're supposed to line up there and tab in, except it really doesn't, so I'm sure that's something that'll be tweaked over time as well. It doesn't really affect anything too terribly much even here on the test sample, but looking at the transformation and everything, it kind of looks like it's supposed to line up there. It might not, I have no idea. It's just something that I'm noticing, and as a test sample, I didn't get instructions with this. I did ask for them, but they were like, you're not going to need instructions. I'm like, oh, okay. But really very cool nonetheless. It definitely has that WEIRDWOLF look, and you got that very gorgeous head, really nice red eyes on there. One thing that I love, looking at the articulation, the neck joint here, oh, this is the other thing. This doesn't really lock in too terribly secure. I mean, it stays down, I mean, obviously just because of the gravity of it, but I would imagine it's going to tab in a little bit more secure. But you have a joint right here, ignoring this moving up and down. You have a joint right here which allows you to pivot it up and down, and then it also does rotate at this joint. So you can see, you can get him looking far down, but if you rotate this around all the way and then spin this section on the head area, you can now have him looking up, which is cool. And again, you can even do that with the side. It's a little bit broken here with the joint look, but I don't think it looks all that bad. And in doing so, now you can get him kind of looking left, and you can do it the other side, and you can get him looking right, which I think is really creative. I like how they actually engineered that. That's really neat. You can see that the mouth does open and close. It's on a little hinge right here, so you can move that up and down as well. Very nice sharp teeth in there. I actually like how the fangs here actually come down over the lower section of the jaw. That's kind of cool looking. But really nice silver paint, really very glossy red eyes in there. You can see you got that very classic kind of shoulder pad sort of look on the front of his arms. You also have those little missile pods right here. For the rest of his articulation, these are going to become his arms, obviously, in robot mode, so you can pivot those out a little bit. They can rotate. You can hear the ratchet joint. You got a nice joint right here. Is that a double joint? Yeah, it's actually a double joint here at the front legs. You can also pivot these little ankles, I guess. Well, you can also rotate because, again, this is going to become the arm in robot mode. You can pivot the ankles in, and you can also move them forward and back, so you get a lot of range of motion there. When you come down to the back legs, they only really rotate up at the upper thigh area. He does have two joints here kind of at the knee. You can see you got an upper section and then another one down here. He also does pivot inward, but it doesn't rotate really out too much. So I don't know. I mean, you can go like that, but you can't rotate this around. So while you can hinge the legs out, I mean, it looks weird. when you do it like that, just having them spread. You can't really bend them out like that. I mean, you can straighten them. Let me see. I mean, and it's just, yeah, you can't really straighten them too much to get this to bend out like that, because now they're just going to be bent like that. So that's kind of weird that they have that on there. It's a nice touch, but I don't think it's really all that necessary. But again, still very nice detail throughout the entire thing. Some nice paint applications on it. Oh, and like I was talking about with the tail, you can actually flex it. You got a swivel here, here, and here, so you can get a nice range of motion. You can also rotate it, but do be careful. This being a test sample, it is fairly tight right here. It has loosened up over time, so I would at first just recommend rotating it by holding right here until you kind of loosen it up, and then, I mean, as you can see, you can rotate it a little bit easier over time, so you can get that positioned however you really want. So real great level of articulation here, and very nice detail. I mean, it's not overly detailed. You can see some really nice molded sections and panels and things like that. The paint is very simple, but Werewolf was simple looking, you know. I mean, even looking in the cartoon, and this is definitely a, you know, cartoon representation of how Werewolf looked. Now, he's actually really very large as well. I mean, I don't know if you can tell by my hands, but by comparison, here's MP10 Optimus Prime. I mean, you can see just how big this gets. Now, obviously, this is a lot bigger in alternate mode than he should be, but in keeping the robot mode scaled fairly well with the rest of the Masterpiece figures, obviously, he's going to have to be this big. So if that puts you off, there's nothing really you can do about it. But you can see, very large figure, but I think he still looks cool. And then for another comparison, here he is next to the G1 toy version of Weirdwolf. And again, you can see definite similarities, but much more actual animation accurate. Now, he does come with, like I said, I don't know if they've actually named him, but the headmaster that he came with originally was named Monzo. Now, to get to this, again, it's a little bit tricky to get to this because it slides down. So lifting this up, you can see that Monzo can actually fit in here fairly nicely, and then removing them can be a little bit tricky if you actually get the legs in there properly. It's a little bit harder to get them out. He sits in there actually fairly well. You can see on the inside here, you have a little kind of steering wheel and some nice molded detail with what looks like a Nintendo controller. I'll be totally honest. That looks like a Nintendo controller. Hopefully you can actually see that, but that's kind of hilarious. I dig it. But now looking at Monzo, or whatever they're referring to as Monzo, this is actually a really good looking figure as well. Lots of articulation in it. Size-wise, you can see the original and the new one kind of share basically the same size, and a lot of the same kind of design elements, like with the chest and everything. Much nicer paint on here, though. But taking a look, again, I don't know the actual name for this, or if they've actually named him, but you can see some nice red paint on his face. You actually got some silver paint on his eyes, which is a really nice touch. But like I was saying, very articulated. He's got ball joints here at the shoulder, and then he's got actual swivels at the elbows. And again, really nice molded detail on the inside, giving him his arms kind of sculpted in there very nicely. The hips here, though, are on ball joints as well, so you can move these forward. You can actually angle these out a little bit, and that's kind of the way that you get him to sit in here. You have to put him in and have his legs spread out a little bit. If you just put him in like that, you're not going to be able to do it, because the center console has the holes on the sides of it as opposed to just being completely open. So you can't put him in straight like that. You have to spread his legs out a little bit and get it to fit in there. But you also do have knee swivels, and then you also have ball joints here at the ankles, which is amazing. That, like I said, didn't really expect that articulation all that much. To transform him, you tab these legs together right down here, and then much like all headmasters, you just rotate that around, and there's actually Lupus's face. Now again, is basically you got a little bit more smooth of a face, and really all you have to do for that is detach this, and let's see, pull this out. Again, I don't have nails, so you got a little tab section right under there. Yeah, there is anything, when you have them like this, there is anything that you can fold to actually hide that face on the back, but you could take the face off if you wanted to, and that hides it a little bit better. But when you have that in, like so, you totally have a face on his back. But for his Monzo-ish figure, that does look really cool. I like the smooth face a little bit more, I think, than the one that's currently on him. It's just personal preference. Neither really look all that bad, but I think if I'm going to prefer one, I'm probably going to go with this one. Now, first transformation is he's actually very simple, despite the fact that he's kind of designed to be a masterpiece figure, and FansToys is known for having more involved transformations. But don't let that put you off, because despite how simple it is, it's actually pretty very cool. Now first, what you're going to want to do is collapse this torso bit. So just push this down just like so. Then you can take the head, straighten that out, rotate that back around, and that's just going to sit in that little cavity. It doesn't tab in or anything, but it just kind of fits there fairly nicely. And as you can see, because of that gap that you create, the actual head fits in there and kind of minimizes how much the wolf head actually extends here in the back. Come down here to the legs. This is probably the most complicated part about him. Well, first you want to remove his tail weapon. It just slots in there at the actual handle. Come down here, lift these pieces up just like so. Then you take this, rotate this whole section around just like that. You can then come around here to the legs and split these if they didn't already split. Come down here to the lower section. This little panel on the outside here it tabs in, and it tabs in very securely, so you do have to kind of pop that out with a little bit of force. But once you do, just swivel that out just like so. And then on the inside here is another panel that's a little bit tricky to get to, but just kind of wedge your finger in there and slide that piece out just like so. Come around, you can then swivel this around like that, rotate that all the way down like so, and then rotate this out to the side like that. You're going to have the bottom section of his leg. Then take this, you just literally fold this in just like so, and then angle this back. You can either leave this pointed up like that, it's personal preference, make sure you collapse that all the way in, or you can actually leave it down. It really doesn't matter. You get a little bit more of a heel. Again, I think it's just personal preference. I actually like tucking it up. The foot is so big that you don't really need that, and you can see it already kind of hangs over a little bit. But that's that leg done. So now come around here to this side as well. Going to, again, bring this little panel out. Like I said, it is a little bit tricky because you kind of have to get in there and wedge it out. That one's a little bit harder to get. So wedging that out like so, you have this little slot, rotate that around like so, bring that piece up. Now let's see, get that there, and then you want to bring this, again, I'm just trying to get an angle on this to separate this, pop that out just like so. Keep that folded down, bring that up, and then bring that out. You can rotate this around like so. Again, rotate this kind of around and swivel this piece out right there. Take this, straighten that, and then collapse this up and in just like that. Bring this closed. Now, one thing that does kind of stink is now the legs are done. I mean, it's just, to me, I feel like because this is FansToys, I would expect things to kind of tab in a little bit better. As it is, this panel just kind of, I mean, it hides the back here, but I just feel like with them, they're so good at putting other things in place to get everything to tab together that I kind of feel as if this could be a little bit done better. I mean, as you can see, I mean, it swivels out. It's not really ankle articulation, but it just doesn't solidly connect, which is something that I would have expected kind of from FansToys. It's not bad or anything. It just, I guess I'm spoiled by some of their other stuff, but there you have his legs done. Coming up to the arms, again, this part, I'm going to use a little wedging tool, so just open this piece up like so, and then you rotate this around, and then as you rotate this around, on the back here, you got this little section that actually goes up into the backside of his actual forearm. So then rotate that all the way around, take this, collapse this up, bring that panel back down. You can then rotate the fist around, do that on this side as well. Can I actually, nope, can't do it, and I don't have the fingernails to do it. So bring this piece up like so, rotate this forward, and then as you do that, then take this back section here, tuck that up and in, bring that in just like so, collapse that, rotate the fist down like so. Again, straighten out these legs, and basically you have him in his robot mode. So again, you can see very simple in terms of the actual transformation on him, and it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's fairly simple by comparison to some of their previous stuff, but it works really nicely. Then you have their little headmaster figure. Again, I'm not 100% sure what they're calling this, but this in the cartoons was Monzo. So then you just take that, tab that in there just like so, and there you have Lupus in his robot mode. And I actually really like the way that this guy turned out. Now, obviously, like I said, you do have his gun. You can have him hold it in his fingers. I'll go over all the articulation points here in a bit, but just getting that around, putting the hand in there. Obviously, it's personal preference in terms of what kind of weapons you want your figure holding, but the hands hold them very nicely on either hand. You got that little kind of slot tab sort of thing going on here, so both hands hold the weapons very nicely. It's just a matter of bringing them around and tabbing them in and seeing where the tab is. Where are you, tab? There you go. Well, get the, all right, get the thumb thing out of the way. Put that in there. There we go. Come on, get in there. Again, test sample, so this is probably something to do with the tolerances, but just wedge that in there. There you go. And then wrap the fingers around nicely. And again, like I said, it's your personal preference about what you want, but I mean, I really do think that that looks pretty cool. It's definitely a very imposing looking figure. And again, like I was saying, you know, the gun and everything does have a really nice G1 look to it. You have that here. So really very cool. The sword, obviously the original sword did not have any articulation points in it, but you can see it's still basically in the same sort of shape. You also have that little kind of hockey stick looking thing kind of coming through here, and you kind of have that similarly on the new one. You got those little groove marks right there. This has those little groove marks. So really very cool update. And then again, the figure really does obviously have a very nice cartoon representation of WEIRDWOLF. So you get a little bit more of the color kind of showing here with some silver and everything, as this was like the bottom of him in his wolf mode. But again, real nice molded detail here for the panels and things. This also is a really heavy figure. The entire chest, basically, you can kind of see where the color is. You got this yellow plastic right here, but like this back section here, this front section is all die cast, so very heavy. Also coming down here to the feet, you can see like all this down here is also die cast, so very, very heavy. But just, I mean, great detail. I mean, like even here on the back, you got like some little molded pistons and things like that. Even on the top section here, some nice molded bits on his butt area. So overall, really very, very sharp looking. Great head sculpt on there. I also really love how you have the chest section here, which can remove, and it does have his tech specs for speed, strength, and intelligence. And the cool thing is that that actually matches with the tech specs that the G1 toy had, which is great. That's a wonderful addition. And I also kind of like how they got these little molded pieces right here, which kind of replicate where like these screw holes were. I mean, that's just a subtle little touch that I think looks really cool. But for comparison, obviously, this is the G1, this is the new one. So there's a big size difference. And here he is next to MP10 Optimus Prime. Now, like I was saying, the large size in his wolf mode facilitates this being a larger size robot. And in the actual cartoon, they were really large. So scale-wise, I think this looks pretty good. If you're going for kind of like an animation sort of look, I definitely think that FansToys nailed it here. As you can see, at the highest point of him, which would be his shoulder pieces, he comes in a little bit less than 9.5 inches tall. First articulation, now because this is a test sample, I think that some of it is a little bit loose. One thing that I really like is when you tab this in, the head on the little headmaster is not articulated. It looks like that's just one piece. But to keep that from actually having any stress on it, what they did was they actually engineered this section that he pegs into to be what actually rotates. So you put that in there, and it's very secure. It doesn't come out or anything like that. I mean, shaking it, it's not coming out. But what you do for the rotation is you actually just rotate it, and this entire section right here is what actually spins. So you don't put any stress on spinning that head around. And that little red section for his neck is actually what pivots forward and back. So you get a little bit of movement with it. So again, no stress on that little tiny ball section, I guess. The shoulders here rotate on some very nice ratchet joints. You can also swivel the arms in and out like so. This piece actually does rotate forward and back. I don't know why, to be totally honest. I don't know if it's, you know, just to kind of angle this to give it a little bit more of a dynamic flair or something, but these little pieces actually do hinge. Again, I didn't get instructions, so I'm not 100% certain. He rotates at the upper part of the bicep area. He's got 2 joints here at the elbow, but that's the only kind of range of motion you're going to get with it. So you do get about 90 degrees. As you can see, one joint moves about there, and then the other one comes in and gets maybe a little hair over 90 degrees. The wrists do rotate very nicely, and then much like Grinder, the fingers are all individually articulated, which is very nice. So you got the main set of the knuckles, you got the secondary set of knuckles, and then the thumb has a ball joint and then also a hinge section. So nice range of motion there. The waist does rotate very nicely just on a friction joint. These little skirt pieces can actually fold up, and then the side ones can move out so that you can rotate that forward and back. Again, on very nice ratchet joints. They move in and out just on a friction joint, but again, very solid upper hip area there as well. Nothing down here at the knee, but he does have the nice soft ratchet joints moving it forward and back. Now, ankles, it gets a little bit limited. I guess you could rotate it. I do wish it had some actual tilt inward, because very large feet, and I really wish you could get them on the ground. I mean, they sit there very well, and obviously because how big they are, it balances nicely, but there is no real inward ankle tilt. You can kind of do it if you like move this out and then kind of flex the little transformation thing, but it really only goes outwards. It doesn't really go inwards very much, and then you can actually move that forward and you can get a little bit of forward and back. But I do kind of wish that there was a little bit more actual ankle tilting for it, just to kind of get him to spread his legs a little bit wider, as opposed to keeping the feet up on an angle like that. You'd actually be able to get him flat down on the ground. And in general, just a very well-made figure. The plastic quality on here, as always, feels really very nice. The die cast feels very solid, very heavy. You get a real good heft when you're actually like holding the figure. Like, you feel like this is a high-quality adult collectible. Now, to transform him back, first what you want to do is remove his head, and then come around to the hands, and you want to take the thumbs and tuck them in, and then fold up the fingers just like so. And then you want to rotate them so that they're palm up. Do that on the opposite side as well. So rotate that around, bring the thumb down and in, fold the fingers in like so. Then obviously, if you're me, bring out a little tool, wedge that open like that, and then rotate this around. But as you do it, you got to reach in here and push that little tab section that I was talking about before. Push that through towards the bottom, and then just kind of pull it out like so. And then you continue to rotate this all the way around, fold out the foot. Oh, actually, these are also made out of die cast. I forgot that. And then you can close this, and then you fold this in. That's just a small little piece. I do actually really like it. It can get a little bit annoying, but I like that they put it there as a way to kind of fill some of that in. That's one of those subtle touches that, we're used to FansToys doing, and I really do appreciate that. So again, bring out my little tool, lift this up, rotate this around some, and then push that little back section out. Continue to rotate that around, tuck that in, fold out the little foot, put that there, and then bring that up and kind of fill that in. Basically, you have this whole section done, and then you can rotate that around. Very simple to transform the front half of them. Again, you slide this piece up, so just bring that up like so. If you actually have, his little headmaster guy in there, it actually kind of holds that up a little bit, because what rotates down is the outer section. The actual cockpit area with the little Nintendo controller actually doesn't slide down. It's just the section around them. So if you actually do put the little headmaster guy kind of in there, I'm just gonna, let me bring this up, I'm just gonna throw him in there just for the heck of it. That actually kind of holds it up there a little bit. Not a heck of a lot, but it kind of helps, at least for this. Now come down to the legs, lift this piece up just like so, and then you can rotate this whole section around, and you can take this inner piece and fold that in just like that. And then you can take this, fold the whole animal leg down, bring this piece around, and then you just bring this around like that. You're going to fold all this up, obviously. But before you do that, you want to take this back section, fold this down. You got a little round tab that's going to slot in right there. So just pop that in there, and then come around to the other side. Do that on this side as well. So lift this piece out like so. You can rotate this around, take this section, rotate that in just like so. Bring out the hind leg, take this section, rotate this around, come around here, take this piece, tuck that down, lock that into place, and then you can just continue to rotate that all the way around. Now these legs do tab together, but it's a little bit easier for me, make sure that these are pushed in, to just kind of bring it all the way up and line this all up. So you got a double hinge here at the knee for the transformation. Just bring that up and kind of accordion that all the way in, and then tab these two halves together. Like I said, I'm not 100% certain, but on the copy that I have, you got like this little tab right here that looks like it's going to slot in there, but it doesn't actually reach. It's not bad or anything, so I don't have the actual knees bent all the way. There we go. So I mean, it kind of still fills it in, but it actually doesn't push in to lock into place. So I don't know if that's something that's the way that the final is supposed to be. I'm not 100% certain. Either way, it doesn't really affect too much here. I mean, it would kind of lock things in a little bit better, but it is still fairly secure just by itself. Then you just take these little back sections, fold those down, and then you literally just position the legs how you want them. Get that just kind of where I can stand them, set them right there. Take the tail right here. You can see that what you basically do is you have the little slots that he would hold in his fist, that slot right in here, and then you can see how there's a lower section for what is basically the handle. So you just slide that in there, and then you can position that, and there you have Lupus back in his wolf mode. Overall, though, I am really very happy with how this turned out. It's not necessarily a figure that I would automatically want, but now having it, I'm quite happy that I do have it. I mean, I have seen a lot of other companies, as I talked about, release Masterpiece scale Headmaster figures. But it wasn't really anything that I thought I was missing in my Masterpiece display. I really enjoyed the series. It just never really entered my mind about getting Masterpiece Headmasters. But with what FansToys does in terms of the look and aesthetic that they go for, really has impressed me, and how they carried it over here with Lupus. Despite the fact that he does have a fairly simple transformation, the legs actually are pretty well involved. And I think they did a great job of taking his wolf mode, and with that simple transformation, creating a very good looking robot mode. The paint's really very nice on it. I don't feel like anything's chipping or scraping off. The die cast gives it a very good heft, and the plastic quality is, much like we've come to expect with FansToys, very high quality. So if Headmasters are your thing, and Lupus here is a figure that you'd like to add to your collection, he will be available fairly soon at various retail locations, including the folks over at Captured Prey. So all you have to do for that is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to CapturedPrey.com where you can check out availability on this, as well as the rest of their wide range of third-party figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. It goes a long way towards helping me out. Also, be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you get instant email notifications whenever I upload a new video, and you never miss out on a future review of mine. Or if you're already subscribed, be sure to click on that little bell on my homepage, and double check to make sure that your settings are set so that you get those email notifications. And as always, until next time, be excellent to each other.